Yeah, great.
Whoa, this ain't going.
Down the side, and
But I appreciate everybody on the chat tonight for your comments. Well, we'd like to welcome everybody to the live chat tonight on the B Connection. Happy 4th of July. Been missing you guys. It's been about 3 weeks. We've had Tom and Melissa and Lee and kind of filling in for us. And so can't thank everybody enough for being on the chats while we've been in Mexico. But we won't talk a lot about the bees tonight. I do know it's 4th of July and probably won't have too many people on tonight, but that's all right. It's just about getting together and talking about what's going on in your bee yard. And I'll go ahead and let you know that we kind of hit a little bit of a dearth before I left Mexico. And when I got back, some of my smaller colonies had one to abscond, had one that looked like it got robbed out. And so I ended up putting feed on the beast. But right now, it looks like our sourwood and our basswood is starting to put out. So so things are getting better at the house, and then been helping some friends out with their spinning their honey out. So that's just been a lot of work. As everybody knows, when you're doing honey, it is a lot of work. It is for me. So, and then I just want to mention I'm on my cell phone tonight. I'm at my daughter's house for the 4th of July. I left my computer at the house, so got about a half a battery. So at least maybe I can get an hour with you guys tonight. So. But what's going on with you guys, Tom and Melissa?
Well, we haven't been into our bee yard this last week very much, but because we've been working on catching up with some other work. We've had a bunch of cutouts that we had to finally schedule in, so we've been trying to do 2 of those a week, and that's been the last 3 weeks, I guess, somewhere in there. So we've been working a little bit more diligently on that, taking care of other people when it comes to that. I had our bees in a pretty good position, and things were just kind of trickling in, and nothing really solid was happening. We had not planned to extract anything yet, but that is our goal. Our main goal here for this next week is to pull all of our supers. At the same time that we pull, we'll be doing all of our mite checks and treatments as needed. And then I don't think at this point I have any cutouts scheduled right now because we kind of blocked that week out. So I think that it seems that when I was looking at some of these cutouts that we had put in a quarantine yard, I was checking them last week because I had told Melissa, I'm like, hey, now that things had kind of dried up a little bit, I'm like, I really need to start feeding some of these colonies. And I had not done that, but I did make 5 splits with some virgin queens that I got from Corey a week and a half week ago. So I haven't checked those back yet to make sure those all took and everything worked out well with those, but I'll probably be doing that tomorrow actually. Cutout scheduled tomorrow, but I think that again we're having a little bit of something flowing here, and I'm suspicious if it's not the sumac. Kind of been researching that a little bit more because I didn't really understand that plant very well. I think we've got a couple varieties here in Missouri, and I think that those are kind of letting loose of some nectar because the last week we had about a 5-inch rain, and then a couple smaller ones, and then over the last few days we had I think between the two rains, somewhere between 4 and 5 inches. So that's actually pretty significant for us this time of year in our area. It doesn't generally happen like that, but we'll take it. That could help extend a little bit of the season out, especially for any field crop type foraging. So, you know what, helps to keep things green here for us. Happy about that. But next week will be our main extraction. So that's kind of our will be a busy week next week, to say the least.
Well, and Saturday we had that big market too.
Yeah, we had a big market on last Saturday. That turned out pretty well. We did pretty well on that. And we have another small one to do, I think, this coming Sunday. So things have settled down a little bit, but, you know, we still stay busy for sure.
How many supers do you guys think you'll pull off, Tom?
I'm not 100%
I
sure.
don't even know how many we put on.
Yeah, I wasn't really counting, and I wasn't really kind of focusing on that. So, I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but I honestly wasn't really super concerned about it. I mean, I do want to pull some, obviously, but I wouldn't be disappointed if I didn't have a bumper crop. I know that sounds a little bit odd for somebody to say, but
yeah, the thing is when we were putting on supers, we were still like catching swarm, like some of our hives were still swarming. So it's like we were focused on like keeping our bees in the box or reboxing the ones that flew out. So we kind of lost track of how many we put out there.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee, man, how's things going down in the South, down there in the hot land?
Hot. We had multiple days here of 113, 114, 115 heat index and no wind blowing. The bees are bearding out on the hives, but they still got supers on them. And I'm hoping to get out there this weekend because I finally got a 4-day weekend off of work, which the past 2 weekends, even when I was off, I was still doing yard work, trying to get some stuff around here done. But I'm hoping to get out there this weekend, maybe pull some more honey, hopefully pull all the rest of the honey that I got. I figure I still got, I'd say 18, 20, maybe 22 supers left that I need to pull. And I've pulled about 20 supers now.
Wow. That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
Walking down there. You guys got anything coming in, Lee, or is it just...
Right now, about the only thing that I see growing that they might get a little bit of something off of is the elderberry. And we got very little clover left now. The heat is just so high. Everything's starting to dry up and burn. Even when we do have a little rain here and there, within a day, I mean, it's just completely dry and dusty again.
Wow. Man. Well, I tell you, it's been dry up here where we are. They said when we left, we had a lot of rain before we left, and after we left, it's like they had 3 weeks of no rain. So, and that may have been why the dearth kicked in when it did. So, yeah, I am a little more tan. I look a little Mexican now. I actually we was measuring our skin tones, and my arm is actually tanner than Ruth's. So I'm more Mexican than she is what I tell.
The question is, you spent 3 weeks in Mexico.
Yeah.
Can you speak any of it yet?
That's right.
I can speak enough probably now just to get by. Not enough to carry a good conversation. So I don't know if y'all know this, but the only class I ever failed in school was Spanish. I mean, don't make much sense, does it? So.
Well, that's what I was looking at before. I wanted to buy a DVD or whatever for the computer and learn Spanish. Well, if you learn Spanish and then go to Mexico, they might understand every other word you say.
That's right.
Now, if you actually go to Spain, yeah, it might work.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
That's about it. Now, me and Tom's messed with Ricky before. We all on a group chat. And me and Tom sent stuff back and forth to each other in Spanish. And Ricky's like, y'all stop that now. I can't understand it.
That's right. Yeah,
we figured he just have his wife translate for him anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I do actually. When you guys send me a message, I'm like, what did Tom say? And I'll give it to my wife and let her look at it and let her tell me. So,
did she say that the everything was correct as far as the way it came out?
Yeah,
or not really.
I think so. She didn't say anything about it being misspelled or wrong.
Okay.
But Melissa speaks Spanish, so that's you having an effect So
I speak just a little bit of Spanish. I can't conversate in Spanish, but like I can translate. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah,
Un
just muy
poco?
poco. Just
Un
muy
poco.
poco.
See.
Sí.
I can't conversate, but I can translate and I can understand. Like
Yeah.
I can understand a lot when it's spoken, but
Right.
the words don't come to my brain fast enough to get out of my mouth.
right.
Now, Tom, we're gonna have to contact Miss Ruth and tell her every time we send something like that, make sure she tells Ricky it says something else.
Right.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
but-
right. Can do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just counted up supers from our pictures, and I think I have 100. We have 135 supers out there.
Oh my goodness.
Well, all of them aren't going to be full, though. I can tell you that.
Right. But that's a lot.
That's still a lot, and that's 8 frames too, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, even at 8 frames, though, that's still a lot to pull.
Yeah, I hope that many boxes are not full.
So in Mexico, I did visit a beekeeper. He's probably a big breeder in Mexico. His name's Noe, excuse me. And he was grafting queens and really got to understand how he grafts his queens. And I'm just a beginner grafter myself, so it was really interesting to see someone actually do it, in live or in person. And the bees down there were extremely hot. I mean, besides being hot, they were spicy hot. I mean, they were all in your veil. And putting queen excluders on the queens that came back, and the colonies were weak, so that the Africanized bees would not get in his weak colonies. And he had a queen excluder across the front, which I thought was just absolutely amazing to be to do that. With a weak colony, you don't really have to worry about drones. So that's the only way he could keep the Africanized swarms from coming in and attacking that and taking it over. But when you're down there and you're talking to another beekeeper, you talk about reinas, which is queens. So you learn enough Spanish that you're communicating about beekeeping with just a few words, brood or larva or pupa, they call it. I can still have even a better conversation. I can actually have a conversation when it comes to talking about bees. But just watching some of his techniques, I don't know how Melissa does a lot of her stuff, but I've seen Greg Burns. He'll lick the little thing that he's got to clean it. He was dipping it in some water, and he was telling me that the larva would, when he swished it, he does a little swish. I was jamming my piece straight in, and sometimes it'd go all the way through. Well, he was doing it like a little bit of a paintbrush and a little twist, and I didn't know that. And man, he was just doing it like it was nothing. I mean, guy's got 30 years of experience, so he definitely knew what he was doing.
Well, that's one of the things I like about that master grafting tool is the tip is so small. Like you just barely get the larvae on there, and you can just set it down so easily in the cell cup.
Yeah, and
I'm sure by the fact that he was dipping it in water, or you kind of lick it, you're putting just a thin layer of moisture on there so that it slides on and slides off very easily.
And that's exactly what he said. That's exactly. Yeah. And then he had another tool that he was using. He was actually dipping royal jelly that he got from somebody else and putting them in the bottom of the cups. He was pre-putting royal jelly in each cup. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching him. It was so hot after he grafted the third grafting frame. I was ready to go. I had sweat rolling all down my face. I was in blue jeans. I was miserable. But I was more scared about the mosquitoes. We got out, and the mosquitoes was almost like a mango orchard, and they were all over us. And I couldn't wait to get my bee suit on just to keep the mosquitoes from getting to my face. It was definitely a good experience. And when it was all said and done, we got a whole basket of mangoes, and I was very tickled with that.
Awesome. That's great.
Spanky, what's going on down there in your area, man?
No, nothing too much. Went in the bees earlier today. Some of them have some honey in them. I'm going to have to get off of them.
Oh, yeah? That's good.
Other ones are building out. And I finally got a queen to return in that cathedral. I found a queen in there, so I got a queen to actually return this year, mated. So that was good.
So you had a picture you sent me of that queen. She looks pretty good sized.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been laying in there. That's her cat brood,
That's really good.
which I figured they had one after time went on, and I was still seeing bees coming in and out, and they didn't just all disappear.
So did you have a lot of dry weather down there too, Spanky, for about 3 weeks while I was gone, or?
Yeah. Yeah, we had like 1 or 2 rains, and that was it.
Okay. AJW, you still catching them coons and possums? I thought I seen you posted a picture of it the other day.
No, I've posted a bunch of pictures on Facebook. I'm up to 20. I've caught 27 coons and 3 possums here in the last 19 nights.
Golly. What are you feeding them things down there, JW?
I'm
Cat.
surrounded by woods on 3 sides.
He feeding them cat food.
Yeah, I had cattle for years, and then plus I've been feeding them. I've got 17 cats at my farm where my main apiary is, and it's I've been feeding those cats, and the coons started eating cat food. So
I thought I seen you. Maybe that was you that was feeding hot dogs. Somebody on YouTube feeds them coons hot dogs.
now,
The whole bunch of them comes in.
now I've live trapping these. I've got some property away from my main farm in the river bottoms. I've been hauling about 7 or 8 miles and relocating them, and it's 5 or 6 miles from the nearest house. Even it's in the river bottoms, so I've been taking them up there.
Okay.
But this isn't the first time. Last year I trapped 26 and 20 or 27 and 26 nights. You know.
You need to start ear
They're just
tagging.
stuck around my area. No one hunts them or traps them anymore. The hides aren't worth anything, you know. So they're just. I keep thinking they'll get thick enough at maybe distemper or something. Usually when they get too thick, you know, they get distemper or something that thins them down. But they're thick now. I mean, thick. So I've been in bees all day today. I had planned to. We got a godsend this morning. We got 2-inch rain, and we needed it badly. And I had planned to start extracting this morning, and it poured down rain to about noon. So I went to my. I got a resource yard. I went into all them and broke some of them down, and even added some. I even added some supers, primarily just to get some more medium frames drawn out for honey for next year. So I added some supers today to some of my what I call starter hives or resource hives in that yard. So it got hot this afternoon. It was miserable. That's what I've been doing.
Brian, that's what I was thinking too. He needs to like tag their ears or put collars on them or something and see if the same ones ever make it back to him.
Well, you know, last year I painted all those, believe it or not. I marked them, and I took in basically the same area, and there was 27 of them last year, and I never ever seen another one again. You know, people say that you got to go so far they'll come back. I don't know. I'm not an expert on it, but I'm doubtful that they'll go 7 or 8 miles, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
To return. Hopefully they'll run into another old barn or something in the meantime if they're trying to come back my way. But if they do.
There's probably some other guy near your other property that's keeps catching them and bringing them to his property out by your house and dumping them. You're catching them and taking them back to his house and dumping them.
Yeah, there's not too many people very close to where I'm dumping these. I'm telling you, if you looked at some of my videos of that, it's a long ways from nothing. I did kind of scan around. It's a long ways. There's big fields in that area. It's in the river bottoms too.
Plenty for them to forage there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a question for everybody in the chat, and so every year I say to myself, I got to call. You get those colonies that just don't grow. And this year I said, I'll catch these colonies and I'll requeen these colonies before July or June, late June, and I'll be okay. And every year when it starts, like, well, this colony's okay, it's still growing and just needs a little sugar water, or it needs a little bit of this, and then it never does anything, and it's July. And I've got several colonies that are like this, and it's usually the queen from a year or two back, and it's just not growing. So the question is, how do you figure out that colony is not growing enough and go ahead and get rid of that queen? Because every one of the colonies that are not growing, the queen has a horrible brood pattern. So how do you see early season? How do you figure out that queen's got to go? Anybody can give me some good information on that? Because it's July and I've got about 7 colonies that need to be requeened right now that they're not doing good at all. So
I would say the more hives you have, the easier that is to see, because you can gauge them off the other ones. If they're in a yard that's 2 miles apart, I can see where there can be a little bit of a difference from yard to yard, particularly once you start getting either really early in the season when things are just starting to flow, or when it gets to be later in the season when the flow really starts to end. One can still continue to grow, the other one not so much. But I would say in the same yard or very close to, proximity of, if you have hives that are next to each other that are not doing much, and you have some that are really doing well, I would say that is your
red flag.
Yeah, that's your red flag. That's your clue.
Okay, because I did splits. Like most of my hives that overwintered. I split them in 3 different colonies, right? And it seemed like every one of the queens, and most of those queens are 2 years old at least. It seemed like every one of those queens didn't do anything all season, and I kept waiting for them to boost up, and they should have, right? They've got queens in them already, but the swarms and the splits ran those colonies out of the park. They're doing great, but those queens that are so old, and every year I tell myself, they'll be okay. That colony will be okay. And then it never pans out. And I kick myself because here it's in July and I lost the whole spring flow with those colonies.
Yeah.
Now, like Brian from Flower Street Farm saying here, if the queen's not rocking by the time the honey flows on, she should be gone. Replace her. Yeah. Now, earlier than that, if you still early spring and the flow hadn't kicked in, you also have to look at what kind of bee you have too. Whether it be Italian or a Carney or something like that.
That's true. Yeah.
Some's going to start up brooding later than others. Now, once they start brooding, they'll usually take off. So you do have to look at what breed of bee you have. If you got a Carney or something that's going to start later than an Italian, you're going to see, okay, these ain't building right now, but I know 3 weeks from now they will start building. But by the time that honey flow comes, they should have already built and been ready for
it. Yeah, I would say an easy way to even to tag on to what Lee's saying, an easy way to tell that is stimulate them with a little bit of 3/4 to 1. Doesn't even have to be a full 1 to 1. Throw some 3/4 to 1 and a little bit of pollen on them, or a little bit of pollen patty, because that should kickstart any colony. And if they're not stimulated by that, even if they are a Carniolan bee, that'll telltale. I agree with what Brian's saying, and I think he's being generous with this time. You could even say, within a couple inspections, 2 weeks to 3 weeks max. If you've stimulated them, or there is some stimulation there, and the other colonies next to it are doing well, and that one's not, I think that's your telltale.
Well, because you really want that hive to be building up before you come into the nectar flow too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what makes me up is I've got these colonies that are just sitting there and. They didn't do anything all season, but just sit there, and just to add a queen, you know what I'm saying, could have the whole outcome of how that colony grew during the year.
Some people look and say, hey, I don't want to spend $25 or $45 on a queen. But you think about it, if you spend that $45 or whatever it may be for a queen, and she actually starts brooding up, how fast are you going to make up that money in honey sales?
Right.
Pay for that little queen. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a small
Or
investment
something,
to
right?
make a bigger profit
Yep.
if that's what you're going for.
Yeah.
Now,
that's a
whether
great-
you're going for honey or for bees, I mean, you might not even be interested in honey. You just want to produce bees to be able to sell nukes or packages, something like that. But if she's not producing early, hey, spend $45, get you a new queen. You ain't got to worry about, well, is she going to do? Is she not going to do? Replace it, and you know it's should happen then, and you're going to make that money back up real quick.
Mhm.
Did you have a spring flow? Did you have other colonies bringing in really good nectar?
Oh yeah, I've got some colonies that just blew it out of the park.
Because sometimes you may not have much in the area, and you think, oh, they're not doing good, but it's your flow.
Yeah, and I agree with you some there, Spanky, because I do have bees in probably 6 different bee yards. Out, I'm always looking at the ones at the house, but you know how it is. You get those bee yards that are out somewhere else, and the flow is different in those locations versus what's at the house, just because of elevation or air soil can be acid or it can be a base up here in the mountains. So that can play a big part in it. So I agree with you, Spanky.
Yeah, I got a colony that's not wanting to draw out any frames.
Yeah.
I've stimulated them. There's a flow going on. They just don't want to. They're very slow to draw those frames out. There's a load of bees in there. They clog the whole front of the colony, bearding, but they don't want to put no wax out.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I've got a couple of colonies just like that, Spanky, that just don't want to draw, and I don't know. Maybe Tom and Lee, you guys got something on how to get those colonies to building wax again and growing.
You can just feed
like
them.
Tom said, 1-to-1 and pollen patches is your best bet. But you want to watch out for the hive beetles when you go to feed them pollen this time of year.
Yeah, depending on how strong the colony is, just watch how much pollen patty you put on at a time. You may even only need to put a quarter of a patty on so that they can control any beetle larvae coming in. And as far as drawing the comb, I would say even maybe 3/4 to 1 versus 1-to-1. And
Yeah, I agree
that
with
way
that.
you don't have to worry about them. Sometimes they'll store that 1-to-1, sometimes they won't. But 3/4 to 1, generally they're not going to store that. They'll just go to work and use that to make comb with.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I actually have pretty good luck, and I'm not here to push any product, but if I got a weak one, a little DFM sometimes will help stimulate them and get them going a little bit too. You got some DFM powder.
Ricky, would you say that most of your queens that you have gotten in the past are just primary Italian, or are they a different breed?
Most of mine are just mutts. I did catch one breeder queen when I started out of a swarm, but most of my queens are just mountain mutts. They're a little on the hot and spicy side. They tend to build up a little late, like the Cardinals. Early like the Cardinals. Cardinals are early, right? Yeah.
No, Carnies are later.
No, Carnies are later. Italians would be early.
Okay. Yes. Whatever that trait is, they're kind of a little bit more like that. And then they do size down like the Cardinals. They get smaller running through the winter. So, but I've had those queens at least 2 to 3 years, I'd say, and they are on the older side.
Yeah,
That's something I'm going to change. When this next set of grafting that I've got going on, I'm going to change out a lot of queens and see how they run. I just feel like every year I get to July and I'm like, dude, you're doing it all over again. 6 years of beekeeping and you're doing the same thing every year and not getting rid of those queens.
I do have to say though, if you're going to graft again, like this time of year, you're going to have to feed them and give them pollen.
Yeah.
Make sure.
I would say keep it on the light side too. So like if you're talking out of the gate early in the spring, I don't try to get any colonies to build wax because they have to be under a stimulation for a period of time. And, thinking about it too, those bees that are coming out of winter, they're not wax building bees, so you're not going to get that. You have to rear at least a brood cycle and maybe even 2, and then age those bees to a middle-aged bee to where those are the ones that are going to draw your wax. Your youngest bees are not your wax drawing bees. Your middle aged to slightly, I think, older than that are the ones that are going to be drawing your wax. So usually by then you've gotten enough of a nectar flow coming on where they will stimulate. And I just kind of follow those cues a little bit, or particularly like we've talked about before in the past, where if we caught a swarm and maybe even a sizable one, a little bitty one might have trouble, but a sizable swarm, 5-6 pounds and maybe above, you can get them to draw wax. And sometimes if you're content with the rest of the colonies that you have and where, what you have their position as far as if they're making you honey, if they're growing bees to make splits, if they're on your queen rearing program, leave them alone. And then just take those swarms, which are kind of, if they're not from your own yard, that's a bonus, right?
Yep.
Just throw extra boxes. If you're using all deeps for your brood boxes, throw boxes of deep foundations in there and just let them draw them. And if you are not under a heavy enough flow, that you're just going to use those for brood combs anyway, throw 3/4 to 1 on there. And I don't think it's a perfect exact science either. If you don't have to measure it out per exact, just get it somewhere close, start feeding them and let them doing it. And if they come under a good enough nectar flow, pull them off of it and just let them do their thing, So I think to have any colonies to stimulate well enough to draw a comb early in the season for whatever all that looks like to each one of us, because it's going to be slightly different. You're probably not going to have that happen. But as the season starts to wear on, those are the ones that can start to do that for you. And I would even point out, too, that on some of the stronger colonies that you might have after you pull your honey supers, if you have extra boxes of foundation, just throw it on there and then throw a feeder on top of that at 3/4 or maybe even slightly less, to 1. Throw that on there. You might give them a couple gallons. And I mean, if it took you, let's just say 3 gallons of let's just say 1-to-1 feed, that is not going to cost you a lot of money to have them draw out a box of comb, because depending on what you're paying for sugar, and let's just call it 60 cents a pound, 1 pound of sugar is roughly about 1 pound of water. It's very close. It's not exact, but it's pretty close. So, I mean, if it's costing you 60 cents per pound and, you're able to stimulate them with a few gallons on there, I would say that's a win-win. It's only going to cost you a handful of dollars, to have them draw out a full box of comb for you at that point, because all those extra bees that are bearding that everybody is so concerned about, this time of year when then everybody starts freaking out because there's bees bearded on the front of the box. Those are all bees that are forager bees that don't have anything to do. And maybe the nectar for that day, there's just everything's drying up. So they come back to the colony and just hang out in the front as to not put extra heat, in the brood chamber. So they'll just hang out in the front. But those are always the bees too that you can use to help to make that wax. Once you then pull your supers, condense them down, you can take that extra box to give them a little bit of room, to help space them out a little bit so they're not so crowded. And then also let those guys build the comb. So I think the timing is really key as to what we're trying to do,
So,
Yeah, my experience is they do better in smaller boxes too, Rick. If you got all 10s of your horizontals, if you,
Yep.
yeah, they seem to draw it out faster for me. I'm just saying my experience.
Right.
I agree with JW 100%.
Yeah.
That's why some of my nuke boxes are 3, and on slim occasion they've been 4 tall. So I've got 20 frames, 5, 5, 5, and 5 stacked up. And again, it's like that chimney where they'll just go to town.
Mm-hmm. I had something like that. But I had like some of the double nuke hives. Basically, it's 2 4 frames on the side of each other. And then it had the 4 frame supers. You put them in there like a resource hive, and they just love drawing comb out in them.
Yeah.
I've got some 5x5s, 5 frame, 5 deeps right now, so that I'm using, and I just use them to draw a comb. I'm not, I don't tend to try to take any frames out of them for honey or anything. I feed the heck out of them, these resource hives, year round, basically. I feed all summer.
How's your battery looking, Ricky?
It's getting low. I'm down to 1/4. So I don't know how much.
I know where my battery is too, Rick.
So I told the guys, I told Tom and Lee, I've got something that was life changing for me, and I want to get a little deep with you guys tonight. it shook my foundations. And if I say something, hopefully I don't say anything that offends anybody out there, but I'm just going to kind of tell it the way it is. I was looking at quitting my job here in July, and that was mine and my wife's game plan. Come back from Mexico, probably go ahead and quit my job. Well, I ended up with a bone spur on the bottom of my foot, and so it's causing my back to kind of be a little bit out of whack. So I've been down in my back, and this happened right before we went on vacation. I was trying to get my bees called up and ready to go. I'm trying to help people out. I mentor a lot of people, trying to get them taken care of. Can't hardly pick anything up. And beekeeping, that's tough, especially when you're picking boxes and stuff up. So I had some people helping me just a little bit. And I went to a lady's house. And I was on my medication. And we lit the smoker up. And we got in her first colony. And the smoker started making me cough. Now, I do have asthma really bad. And I was coughing and didn't think nothing of it. You know, just the smoke blows back in your face. And so we worked the first colony, and the cough was getting worse. And we went to get in the second colony. And I felt my lungs starting to seize up. And I told her, I said, I need a Benadryl pill. And then I went to the truck and I'm looking for my emergency inhaler. And I can't find it. And I'm getting excited. My heart's a thumping in my chest. And I'm like, this is not good. I could feel that it wasn't good. I took a cup down. There's a little stream there beside her colonies. And I went down beside the stream. There's a log laying across the stream there. And I leaned up on it. And I can't figure out what in the world was in that smoker that set me off. I use that smoker all the time. It actually used it the day before. The only difference was I put some McDonald's napkins in there. And I'm not saying that's what it was. It could have been the medications that I was on. Folks, I was in trouble. I was in a lot of trouble. And I started where I couldn't breathe. And the Bible says, a man doesn't know when he'll take his last breath. Well, let me tell you something. And every minute, you take 30 breaths. And every one of those breaths, I was thinking, this is my last one. I sat there. The lady come back down, and she said, here's the money that I owed you for these bees. And she just felt so bad for me. There's nothing she could do. And I'm panting to catch a breath. I mean, absolutely catching a breath. And then I start talking to God right there by the water. And I says, Lord, I didn't pray this morning, and I need to ask forgiveness for that. And I didn't pray this morning when I got up. And, I think I do pretty good. But if there's anything in my life that I've done wrong, I want to be right with you, because I knew I was going to die right there. I'll be honest with you, I was going to die. I couldn't get a breath. And the lady, she's trying to talk to me, but I can't hardly take a breath. And I finally told her, I looked over at her, and I had tears in my eyes, and I said, I just want you to know, if I don't make it, this is one beautiful place to die at. And she started crying. We're sitting there crying. I'm trying to catch a breath. And I'm thinking, we let so many things in our life just take us away from our families and everything. And, I need to spend more time with my family. I need to be a better Christian man. I need to be an all-around better person. And all these thoughts are going through my head. I remember it come to my head that my cousin was 22 years old. He had asthma worse than I did. And he pulled over beside the road and died. Couldn't breathe. So the lady finally, she called Ruth to come, and she was about 35 minutes away. And I knew I wasn't gonna make it. I finally told the lady, I said, call the ambulance. I said, I'm not gonna make it. And so she calls the ambulance, and I'm like a fish out of water still, taking my breath. And then I'm thinking about my uncle who died beside his pond and just died. We just don't know when it's their time to go, and we don't know what might set us off. And I don't know why that smoker set me off. And I'm here to tell you guys, anybody's got you got allergies like I do and asthma, you better have that emergency inhaler with you, because you don't want to be in that situation that I was in, because there wasn't nobody coming. Finally, the first responders got there, and they gave me some oxygen. And I walked up the hill, and I basically collapsed. And tell me it's about dead. So anyway, I'm making the shorter story is they ended up taking me to the hospital. I spent quite a bit of time in the hospital and really evaluated my life. And if you're not saved, you need to get saved. If you're not right with the Lord, get right with the Lord. We don't know when we're going to die, and I know I was praying. I shouldn't have been praying this while I was there, but I was praying. I said, Lord, we're supposed to go on vacation, and this is just going to ruin my wife's vacation. It's just a silly thing, But he did. He let me make it. So I'm gonna try to be a better man, and hopefully I can be better to you folks on the chat. But I really, and I hope I don't offend anybody tonight. If you're not saved, get saved. You just don't know. I used to feel invincible, but at that point in my life, I had no chance. It was all in His hands. So that's my soapbox for tonight. It's a little bit about beekeeping, but it rattled my life, So I didn't get to. I haven't even got to quit my job because we're just a little scared about my health and want to get my foot fixed. So we're definitely going to keep working for a little bit. But my whole attitude's changed. Things that I thought was pretty important. When you're in that moment, you can figure out it's not that important in life. So I love beekeeping. I'm going to continue to do it, but I will definitely keep that emergency inhaler with me so that I don't have that problem again. But I just want to share that with y'all tonight. Hopefully it didn't offend nobody, but we just don't know. So and that goes back to whatever you put in your smoker, make sure you know what you're putting in there, because I'm bad to just grab trash a lot of times and throw in my smoker. I just suggest you know what you're putting in there so that you don't have that problem. So, and I appreciate everybody on the chat tonight. You guys, you don't know how supportive you guys are to me. I've been a beekeeper for 6 years, but I'm learning every day from you folks. I'll ask questions. I don't mind telling you I don't know. So that's why, the question I had prior to me getting on here, asking you guys about the queens failing, just appreciate everybody down deep in my heart. You guys are a blessing. Palmless, love you guys. Lee, Spanky, JW. Then there's so many of you guys on the chat, Brian, Lisa, and all you folks out there, everybody that's left a message up there. I can't see the messages tonight, except what Lee pops up. But man, I love y'all. You're a blessing. It's a bee community, and we support each other, and I appreciate your support. And if there's anything I can ever do for folks, I'll be right there for you. But I've got about 10% left on my battery. We'll get back into the beekeeping part of this. But just wanted y'all to know I love you tonight. So,
Ricky, I just feel like that maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I feel like I can speak for everybody. I don't know that you know this, and I hope that you do, because I think you're probably one of the most simple, caring, and empathetic individuals that I've probably ever met. And I think that I probably, again, I feel pretty confident I can speak for everybody when I say this. You're probably one of your wife and your family are some of the nicest individuals that I've ever encountered on the face of this earth. And, I think it's important that you shared that message here tonight, because that message is for somebody.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is. You probably don't know who it is, but it's for somebody,
Right.
Whether that person's on this chat tonight or whether that is somebody that's going to watch this later on. I believe sincerely that our footsteps are led by the Lord. It talks about that in there. And yeah, I mean, you talk about, being a better man, but I'm telling you, Ricky, you're some of the best that they come, man. I mean that with all my heart and the sincerest way possible. Melissa and I share the same sentiment. And like I said, I guarantee that most everybody in here probably carries the same thing. You will bend over backwards for anybody else out there. And I know for a fact you have been so busy right before you left for Mexico. It was probably stressing you out. These things I just understand, because, when some of us are in here are so busy like we are, maybe running a couple businesses or trying to help people out, you can be overwhelmed so quickly, with things and people. Even though I love people to death, sometimes people can wear you out. So, again, you are here for a reason, so definitely don't discount that. Your wife and yourself, some of the best people that we know. We love you guys to death. And, I'll tell you, we would do anything for you too. So, I don't mean that just saying it out loud. I mean that sincerely too. If there's something that you guys needed and I could make that happen, I would do it for you guys, So just because I know you guys would do that for anybody else. So again, I'm completely sincere when I say everything I'm telling you right now. So like I said, Melissa and I love you guys to death, and honestly, when it comes to meeting up with you guys, that's why I was pumping you and saying, hey, man, you've got to go to Slidell. We've all got to get together. All of us here got to get down there and just hang out with one another. I don't even care about the B conference, if I'm being honest, man. It's going to be fun, and I'm going to love to see that. But I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you guys down there. That's my main drive right there. Just to go down there with you guys.
That's my thing going to these conferences. I don't go really for like the speeches and the products and all that. Yeah, that's a good little bonus on the side. I go to enjoy hanging out with the people and talking with everybody, whether I've met them on here in person before or not. It's fun meeting the new people. And like Ricky and Ruth, as soon as you meet them, I mean, they treat you just like family.
Amen, Ricky. I agree 100%. So you've got a good following, I'd say.
I appreciate you, boys. I really do. And like I said, I appreciate everybody on the chat. And, you say I'm a good person, Tom, but when you're in that moment, you don't feel very good. You don't feel like a good person. So, I was just grateful God gave me a chance to ask for forgiveness. Some people don't get that chance. Yeah. And that's what was a blessing for me right there. I got a chance to ask.
I call them come to Jesus moments.
That's right, brother. It is.
Right. Yeah. It helps us get things back in perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like your inhaler or an EpiPen or anything, to me, if you go somewhere, it really wouldn't hurt whether you know the people, I mean, for a couple years or it's your first time on their property doing a little job. It might be a good idea to tell them, hey, look, I have this little situation or whatever. If you notice something, try to bring it to my attention if I'm not noticing. And hey, my inhaler is in the glove box of the car or something like that. I know I always had a habit when the kids had friends come over to stay. I would ask them before they even come, would talk to the parents and ask them, do they have any food allergies or different things like that? That way we would be aware if something was to happen, we kind of had an idea of what was going on.
Yeah, and like I said, just be mindful of what you put in that smoke. You may not be allergic to, and then you never know when it might hit you. Just like, anaphylactic shock, right? You might be fine, and the next thing you know, you're allergic to bee venom. So it can happen to you. That's the main thing. Just be ready.
So watch out for the McDonald's smoke.
That's right.
So
McDonald's is bad, everybody.
Watch that napkin, that McDonald's napkin. Do not use it. Hardee's is probably okay, Burger King, any of them others, but don't use the McDonald's napkin. I don't know what it was, but it definitely
Uh,
messed me up. So
I
So
like to
both-
tell you something, Rick. The older you get, the more you realize you're mortal and your days are numbered. So
that's right,
the
JW.
older you get, you realize how many chances you had to go to the
Yep.
place beyond that the good Lord's going to take you when it's your time, and
That's right.
it don't make any difference.
Yeah, and I want everybody to be there. I want to see all y'all up there. Everybody on the chat tonight, I want to see you there when we get to heaven.
Yeah.
So
There's a comment down there at the bottom from my brother-in-law. He's sitting out on the front porch right now with all the family.
Awesome.
So both our boys, Andrew and Isaac, they both have horrendous spring allergies like swelling eyes, asthma, all of it. Well, they've been working for Tom this year, and Andrew's is a little more severe than Isaac's is. So even now that like pollen season has passed, even when he's out cutting grass, all that pollen, I guess, coming up from the ground or whatnot, stuff floating around irritates him. And they've been told they're almost 18. They've been told, and they know, you need to keep your inhaler with you, keep it in the work truck with you. And of course, there's almost 18-year-old boys. They don't. So Andrew called us last week. He's like, can you bring my inhaler? I need my inhaler. I'm like, okay. So we go home to get his inhaler to run it out to him. I have no idea where his inhaler is. I'm like, where's your inhaler? He's like, I don't know. How am I supposed to help you?
Mm-hmm.
That's why now that I got EpiPens here at the house, if we going in the bees, me and somebody else, we in the office kind of just shooting the bull or whatever. And I tell them, look, we getting ready to go outside. Something happens to you, me, or somebody else. The EpiPens are on the top shelf right there in a big yellow box. You can't miss them.
Yep. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I called Walgreens like that night and refilled both of their inhalers. So I have extra ones in the house now that I know where they are. And, as soon as I got home, I'm like, find your inhaler.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ricky's battery must have died on his
That's
phone.
what
He seemed to lost
Rick's
him.
battery quit him.
But yeah, make sure you have those rescue inhalers and those EpiPens readily available and extras if you can.
Yeah. I think it's about time for me to get some more EpiPens now because I think they're good for 1 or 2 years or something like that.
1 or 2, I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Now,
so.
I've
I don't
had
know.
the doctor tell me, say if you got some that's 1.5 years or 2 years old or whatever, they're a little bit past expiration. He said, if you don't have nothing else, still use it. He said anything would be better than nothing. He said, yeah, it might be a little bit weaker. It may have weakened over time, but it's going to be better than having nothing at all. Now,
Do not use an expired.
I'm not saying do that, but I'm just letting you know what my doctor told me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say now that Ricky's not in here, I'm sure he'll probably see this later, but there may be some people in here that actually don't know Ricky that well. And I haven't known Ricky a lifetime, but I feel like I have known him a long time. And just so I can and I think Lee can probably attest to this because I think Lee's probably might have even known him longer than I have. But, for anybody in the comments that may not know Ricky that well, when I said what I said there, Ricky literally is one of the most genuine people you will ever come across. I mean, if Ricky tells you too that he's going to do something, I'll give you, for example, he never told me this, but I am certain that Ricky was really busy right before he left for Mexico. And I mean, if he promised somebody that he was going to get him a hive or a product or something, Ricky, I know, was working extremely late at night and up at like 4 or 5 in the morning the next day, trying to get stuff done for people. And he's just that kind of guy that will do that for folks. He will, if he tells you he's going to do something, he will just absolutely make it happen. So again, for anybody in the comments, you may not actually know Ricky that well. That guy will bend over backwards for anybody. And
I can reiterate that statement right there for you, Tom. Now, I talked to him that evening when everything happened. He told me he had a little episode, had trouble breathing. Ruth brought his inhaler and this and that, and he was feeling better. Well, we were scheduled to do a podcast that evening.
Yeah.
And
I
called, just check where he was. He said, oh, I'm about to pull up at the house. I said, look, we can do this later or whatever. I'm not in no rush. We can wait till you come back from Mexico. He said, oh, no, I'm good. We can go ahead and do it tonight. Well, we sat there on the computer for an hour, half 2 hours that evening and done a podcast. And he didn't let me know how far everything went and how bad it was. He just told me he had a little episode and needed his inhaler stuff.
Yeah.
And then now I'm hearing all this. So that lets you know when he says he's going to do something, he gets out of the hospital, comes home, and still does it.
Yeah, I know. That's just, there are not many people out there that would do that. Not at all. And I know, even like Lee's saying here, Lee tried to talk him out of it. He's like, no. Because I think we were on a group text feed, I think, when we were talking about that, if I remember correctly.
I believe so on that one.
You almost insisted. It's like, nope, take the night off. We can do this anytime. And Ricky came back and almost insisted, no, I want to do this, because he told Lee that he was going to do it. And for something as insignificant as that, he wanted to follow through with his word. So, you know, if you all are ever at a conference or you're wherever you might be and you see Ricky, you know what? Tell him that he's important, because he really is. I mean, sometimes whenever you're a person that's extremely busy and trying to always cover and take care of people, you know, you kind of sometimes can neglect yourself a little bit, you know? And so I try to, sometimes these guys that I might deal with or other business owners, you know, if it's not something that I have to have and they told me they get it to me, I'm like, look, man, don't worry about it. What I need is not that important right now. I can do with it in a few weeks. Spend some time with your family too. You know, don't neglect them, because at the end of the day, when he retires from whatever it is that he's doing, his family are going to be the ones that are going to be there, and they need to be together and do that. Yeah. So I don't know. I just feel like I needed to push that out there to anybody who may not really know Ricky that well. Just again, sincerely, I cannot reiterate it enough. Like Lee said, the guy will bend over backwards for you. So if any of y'all ever see him sometime, just give him a little bit of boost. You know, just tell him, hey man, you know what? Good job. You know, keep up the good work and what have you. So
that's like his horizontal hives. He was doing a video on it was a live somewhere. He was doing a video, and I just left a comment in there. I said, man, I'd like to have one of those. I like those hives. He ended up contacting me, and we got together, and I got a hive from him, and he delivered it here to my house in South Louisiana from North Carolina. Yeah. And after that point, me and him kept in touch. Yeah. We've kept in touch. I mean, right after that, like multiple times a week, we'd talk on the phone or text. And then he ended up asking me to come to the Hive Life with him and everything and be in his booth. And then I was in the booth with him this year at Nobby. And I mean, it's just been a fun time with him. Like I said, as soon as you meet him, he treats you like family. So they come down here a year before last, delivered the hive to me. And then they came the year after that to visit again. And then we ended up in the hospital with Miss Ruth having anaphylactic shock. But we went to dinner after. But yeah, I mean, they've come to visit. I mean, we've enjoyed spending time with each other.
Yeah. Dawson related to me that he just met him, you know, and asked if he could hang out with y'all at Nobby, you know.
Yeah.
He said certainly, and took him right in.
Yeah.
Dawson told me that himself, you know. So.
Yeah, Dawson was with us at Nobby this year, and then he was also there last year at Hive Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's been times that Ricky has done stuff for me, and he'll say, well, I'm just going to do the same price as last year. I'm like, Ricky, you can't do that, man, you know? And, you know, I'll say one other thing too, that, you know, if you're going to order something from him, you know, things that we should do, I think, to support each other aren't just be like, hey, you know what, give me a deal, give me a discount. That, you know, I think real true friends are like, you know what, Ricky, tell me what this is worth. Tell me what you need. And I want it. That's what I'm going to pay you for it. You know, sometimes that's just how we support people too. You know, it's just like Lee said, he drove it to him, you know, I mean, that costs a lot of time and it costs a lot of money to do that. So
he's met us in Nashville twice with that.
Yeah. He's met us in Nashville twice sometimes. And then he wanted to buy me dinner. And I'm like, no, you can't buy me dinner. I owe you dinner.
I owe you. Yeah.
On top of it. And he insisted. I'm like, you know what? I'm a strangle you guy. I'm like, I owe you, you know, you don't owe me. Yeah. Right. So
we thought about the dinner thing too.
Well, I think that when we get together next, we all need to take turns buying him and his spouse some dinner, you know, just to show him what, you know, hey, you know what, you're important, man, you know. So I think that's what it's all about. That's how friendships work, and that's how, you know, that's how you support each other, you know, just doing nice gestures for each other and such. So
as far as I know, that next time we're all going to be together, that should be at the Be Alive conference here in Slidell, Louisiana at the end of September.
Yeah.
If anybody
Looking
wants
forward.
to check that out, look at bealiveconference.com. That's going to be put on by the Bee Commander, Jeff and Roxanne Brown.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Tom
Luckily,
got-
it's one local to me. Everything I've went to so far is 10, 11, 12-hour drive away. Now I get to only go like an hour and 20 minutes to one.
So Tom got some exciting news this week about speakers that he was wanting for our conference, but I don't think he should spill the beans yet because the EMBA hasn't posted anything just yet.
Well, she's in the start. She's already
It's
started
just a
opening her mouth.
teaser. It's just
Yeah.
a teaser.
So,
So
so stay tuned to that. We've got we got three good people lined up that everybody likes to watch and likes
more to
see.
come.
So
That was really loud.
we're pretty excited about what's going to happen at Eastern Missouri this year as far as our conference setting and such. So anyway, there'll be more stuff to post here.
That's in February.
Yeah, in February. So we got other things to fry before that, but it's going to be a good time. Looking forward to seeing JW down in Slidell. I know
Yeah,
he says-
you want me to be down there to buy. I know what you want.
He's bringing JW's bringing the boat. I got the rope and the wakeboard. He's bringing extra cash for dinner for me. I mean, this is going to be the best time, guys. You don't get no better than that. I'm going to have a picture of me on the wakeboard and JW there in the boat just driving along, and he's going to have a nice wave and a big smile there. Right,
You better
JW?
watch that. I'm an old cowboy, you know. That rope may have a loop in it.
JW is going to cut the wheel on that boat and send you up in the bushes with
That's
snakes
right.
and alligators down here.
Hey,
Well, it is
I
no
sure hope
good for
listen.
them cypress stumps. What I'll do.
Yep. I sure hope Melissa can be in that boat with you because I feel like you two would be against me on that. You know, I have to watch myself.
Life insurance is paid up. We're good to go, JW.
And I'm right with Jesus too. So all's good.
So if I'm the only guy that's been in their bees here recently, like
I was
today,
in mine today.
yeah.
Let's see. I got a few pictures here a while ago from Spanky. Let's see if I can get them pulled up.
I counted my supers. I'm going to try to pull tomorrow, and I've got 47. I don't know if I can get through all of them or not.
There's that new queen.
I was trying to figure out who you were talking about. No, it doesn't, Brian.
Are you going to mark her or leave her?
I left her. I didn't want to accidentally kill her trying to mark her.
Oh, that's
like
in
they-
your.
Yeah, there's the whole frame.
Look like they drew them out pretty good, though.
Mhm.
Yeah, that box there, that was a swarm that moved into a 10 frame. And then the only box I had ready to put on it was a super, so I put a super on it. And they've already filled that super out. They've already capped it and everything. I need to take it off of there.
That's the super there.
No, the one you was looking at before.
That one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, they got drones in there too. They're the only colony I saw drones in. So they done really well.
I like seeing that fresh white wax in there.
Yeah. So that one there was it started out as a swarm and a 5 frame, and now it's a double 10 frame. And they've drawn out most of those top frames. So they're doing really well. Trying to get some more brood comb out of it. But both of those swarms have done really well.
They looking good. But I know we lost Ricky. It's up to y'all. We lost Ricky and everything for tonight with a dead battery. But I know it's the 4th of July and a lot of people are out celebrating and enjoying family company and everything. I got some in the house here myself tonight. So I don't know if y'all want to go ahead and call it a night. Y'all
we
good
can do
with
that.
that?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, we can pick this up next week, and we'll have a good beekeeping chat next week and talk about everything that we have going on at that time.
We'll have sticky honey pictures for you next week.
I was laughing at the comment earlier. Grammy left. Lisa left on Bruce's premiere. Talking about the guy kind of slipping and sliding in the honey. She says sticky and slimy at the same time.
Last year, because we do it in our garage, I swear the entire garage had about a 1/4 inch thick of honey all over the garage floor last year.
Mhm.
It was such a mess.
I've got a wash pit in my honey house for that reason, where I can just wash it all in there and add a little soap and send her down the drain.
That's
Well,
what I'd
that's
like to do. Build one and have the concrete floor slightly sloped to the center with a graded drain in the middle. That way I can just take the
Good
pressure
idea.
washer and do the whole floor down.
So Monday we'll take everything out of the garage, clean everything, sanitize the floor, move the honey extraction equipment back in. That way everything's clean, and then when we get done, we'll just hose it all out again.
But well, I want to thank everybody for coming in again tonight. I know Ricky appreciates it. And let's see.
Good to have him back too.
Oh yeah, definitely good to have him back.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully either he'll have a fully charged battery on his phone next week, or he'll be back to his computer itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I hope everybody has a good 4th of July, and anybody out there on the roads, be careful and watch out for the other people that may not be watching out for us.
That's right.
So, y'all have a good one,
Good
and
night, y'all.
we'll catch y'all on the next one.